and it'll take my brother and them to kind of talk about my personality, because with me, it's what you see is what you get. I don't change. I am who I am, and I'm not one of those people, and I call chameleons, where you see one person, then you get close to that person, there's somebody else.
Yeah.
We see it's too much of that in this world, and I just don't want to be that person. Well, this is Dominique Wilkins. I currently Vice President of Atlanta Hawks and analyst for, actually it's Bally Television now, TV now. It used to be Fox, but now it's Bally's. And I've been doing television now probably over 20 years now. My passion is healthcare. That's what my passion is. Of course, basketball is my life and everything, but my passion is healthcare, how I can help people help themselves. Mm-hmm. And so, learning that I was a diabetic right after my career was over, it just made me look at my life a lot differently. And I look at being a diabetic now as another opponent that I compete with. And as long as I do the necessary things, lifestyle changes that I had to make, and making sure I stay true and stick to my regimen, that I'm winning, And I think that's what people have to do with their lives. They got to build this kind of a schematic of their health, their lifestyle, and try to, tailor it where it benefits them more than the disease. Find out what is going on with your health. Find out the things that you need to know when you go to your physician, he knows how to handle it. So if you don't build that portfolio of your health, how do you know what's wrong with you? How does the doctor know what to fix if something's broken? Mm-hmm. And so those are the steps that I've taken, when I found out. I've been a diabetic now for, I retired in 2000, 2021, for 21 years, so, and I tell you right now, I'm probably in the best whole shape that I've ever been in. I mean, I've lost weight doing COVID, but that's doing simple things, keeping yourself physically moving, trying to eat the best you can, make sure you eat a lot of vegetables and fish, chicken, and stuff like that. But again, the only way you stay young and stay healthy is to move. And a lot of people don't want to move. They want to take all these different supplements, all these different things to offset or keep them from having to do physical workout or physically moving. You can't have one without the other. You got to have physical movement if you're going to make a difference in your life.
I come from a martial arts background, and that I started at 3.5. And I've noticed that having that ingrained into my DNA and keeping up with that as long as I've been on the planet has made a huge difference as to my mindset coming through adversity, being able to keep myself healthy, being able to drop into self-care, being able to, like during COVID, for instance, that was a very sedentary time for almost everybody. And that was a very strange time for my body. I'm not used to sitting still at all. But now that I've gotten back into physical activity, I dropped back into it immediately. So as long as you continue to stay on that path consistently, it makes it easier for your body to adjust if you come up against any sort of adversity. When you tie that into domestic violence, for instance, I found that it helped me stay in the place of fighting and thinking forward and moving forward and keeping keeping the bumpers on, like keeping myself on an upward and forward mobile path.
I've seen it, in my family. I've seen it in other people's family. And I've learned at a very, very early age that how wrong it was. Mm-hmm. Because I saw my sister one time go through it. And she went through it one time, and we didn't handle it well, But what it taught me is that any man who has to put his hands on a woman is a coward, for one. Second part of a woman is put on this earth to cherish, love, and to care for. And that is reciprocated when you give that type of emotions to a good woman. When you get to the point where things you don't agree with, And the only way that you can settle your grievances is to be physical, is wrong. And it just shows your character. And I don't respect any man that does that. You know, it's hard for me to even yell at a woman. You know, sometimes you want to shake them real hard, sometimes. but when you got to go through those measures where you put your hands on a woman, man, you just show who you are. You know, a real man don't do that. You know, you can voice your opinion and be heard without being physical or being violent. It's all about how you communicate. It's all about communication.
As someone is coming out of domestic violence, they're not in the headspace to be able to think about themselves and put themselves first. They've been so psychologically manipulated that they're just it's outside of their consciousness to be able to do that. So if people such as yourself and myself and people who have been through it and other advocates can hit home that you have to really put yourself back into your life. You have to put yourself back at the center of your existence and make sure that you're healthy, make sure that you're eating right, make sure that you're doing counseling, make sure that you have you're spiritually grounded, make sure you have a community around you. Because like you're right, like if you're a survivor and you have a child or children, if you have people that you need to be taken care of, you can't do that if you're spinning out of control. You can't do that if you're not centered. And the only way you can do that is if you get yourself back into place health-wise.
You know what? You need someone to talk to when you're going through these type of emotions in your life. You got to have someone who understands what you're dealing with, some sort of professional that can help you get through it. Because when you're dealing with either, be it healthcare or be it domestic violence and that sort of thing, you know, it's all about control. It's all about control. How can a person control you? And so that control is all they have because they have nothing else. And so the only way that they can get their point across is to keep you in a frame of mind where you're at fear or you're buying into fear all the time. And nobody should live like that. Nobody should live like that. And it's the same, again, when I talk about healthcare, you only make lifestyle changes when something goes wrong. When you should be proactive and really looking at your life and say, look, I need to do something because my body is giving me all the signs that something's wrong. Or my mental state is giving me all the signals that something's wrong, but I'm still willing to stay in this frame of mind or in this atmosphere where I know it's toxic and I know it's physically harmful to me. So what do? You have to find someone, people have to find someone that they're comfortable with, some professional that's going to come from a very, I should say, I won't say neutral standpoint, but very objective standpoint where they can help you get through some of the troubles that you're dealing with. You know, my brother had went through some of that where, you know, he was dealing with bipolar, for example, and I had kept pounding the head, bro, you got to get some help. You know, you got to get some professional help where they can help you not only balance you out with your disease, but they can get you education or take you through educational programs that to help you learn about your disease. So now you know how to control it. And it took him years before he really got it. And finally, you know, just recently he understood what we were trying to tell him. And it's now he's doing fine. He's finally got the help that he needs. He finally got the education he needs. But if you look at all the things we're talking about here, it's about education. How I educate myself on how to deal with this. You got to do what's best for you. You got to do what's best for you because, you know, look, you might go through some hardships in the very beginning of it, or you might go through some ups and downs, but you're better off for it at the end of the day, you know, and that's in everything that you do. I've been on my own since I was 16 years old. I left home when I was 16 years old, and because life was hard for my family. And I knew at that time, if I could focus myself where I could determine if it was something that I was passionate about. Fortunately for me, I grew up in Baltimore, Maryland on a playground, and I had a playground legend, for some reason, saw something in me. I mean, I don't know what it was. I was 12 years old at the time. And he said, I want you to come to the boys club every day, and I want to teach you everything I know about this game. And he said, you're going to owe me And I didn't know what that meant. I'm 12, right?
Mm-hmm.
He said, anything I want from you to give to someone else when I'm about to give to you. And he gave me the courage to leave home when I was 16. I had one bag on my shoulder, and I caught a Greyhound bus in North Carolina. I got discovered on the playground the next morning. And that's how it all started for me. But I was willing to jump out there on faith to do something that I was passionate about, but to find my own way, my own career, my own life. And if I had a chance to do it all over again, I probably would do it the exact same way, because it helped build character in me. It helped, build respect for others. And I think there's a lot of people out here who do things that's not very honorable or not very respectful, has never struggled to that level, or they've had been something missing in their life, or maybe they have a father, or mother, whatever you want to call it. But I always look at this as people use excuses for a lot of their actions. Everybody's been through something in their life, right? But you don't use it as a crutch to do something negative. I use it to do something positive. I've been through, life where, days I didn't eat. My mom didn't have food on the table, but I didn't let it stop me or promote me to go do something that I knew would get me in trouble. So I stayed above it all. And the trade-off is I was able to do something that I loved. And still to this day, you're talking 40 some years later, and I'm still doing what I love. But it takes a commitment. It takes belief in yourself, and never, ever, ever let anybody disrespect you. I am blessed through my life to happen to surround myself with good people, especially later in my life. But it started with those guys on the playground. I've had very close friends, guy friends and girlfriends that I've been like sisters and brothers to me, right? And I've watched her go through some serious domestic. I mean, there was times when she would show up with a black eye and busted lip, until a person get hit, and not necessarily physically, but emotionally. You get hit with a life-changing experience, it wakes you up. People use that control and that power to really control people to the point where they think they shouldn't have control, or they think it's the way they're supposed to live, and they just deal with it. I've seen people deal with it for years before they act on it or before they actually left. And I used to say to my friend all the time, like, what are you doing? I said, why are you staying into and let this man physically beat you? Why? And I can't go and check this guy or beat him up or fight him for you, because no matter what I do, it's ultimately what you do. I said, we've been friends for over 20 some years, and I know you've been in this. You don't have to deal with this. And the first thing he told me, I know you've seen this, I don't know what to do. There's plenty you can do. You can leave. You can leave no matter how hard it is or how frustrated you may get with that person not treating you with respect or treating you like a lady. For most men who treat a woman like that, don't look at you as a lady. They look at you as an object that they control. And they feel like they can do anything they want to you, and there's no consequences. But the biggest consequence they can get, and the biggest wake-up call they can get, is when you walk away. You walk away and you put measures in place to keep them from ever coming around. And she finally got to that point where that's exactly what she did. But it took her 5 years. It took her 5 years to do that, And he stopped becoming a friend of mine because of what he was doing to his wife. Because at times I wanted to go over there and choke this dude, but it wasn't my place to do that. But it was all about what you're gonna do. As a woman, what are you gonna do? You got 2 kids. And your kids happen to see that stuff. I said, what do you think that's doing to them? I said, so you worrying so much about this man more than you worrying about how your kids are going to be scarred emotionally by seeing their mother go through this. So what are you going to do? I said, yeah, me and my brother can go over there and, and check this guy or whatever, but that's your husband. We are trespassing if we come and do something like that. So it's ultimately, you got to make the decision. If you're going to continue to deal with this, and you're going to take your 2 kids and go into a safe environment. So you have people who go through domestic violence who are no longer here because they stay in those situations long, and then, they lose their life to something like that, And that's why when my sister first told us that, a boyfriend slapped her, that was it. That was one time. We wasn't going to deal with that. But ultimately, she shouldn't have to deal with it. You got to make up your mind if you're going to deal with it, So, but it's just really painful to see time and time and time again that a woman would go through something like that. But that's that control mechanism that a lot of insecure men have, is that control, that's their security, is the control.
You bring experience. You bring experience in healthcare. You bring experience in family. You bring a very strong voice. I want to understand how, for instance, I want to study the prevalence of domestic violence within professional sports. So like the NBA and the NFL and soccer and boxing and things like that. So what I would like to do is do some studies and ask some blind questions and just do some research.
Yeah. It's a lot of different things in sports that promotes that. In football, you got the different things that go in there as far as, guys getting hit, and, they have different, emotional problems when it comes to that, even before they retire, especially after they retire. And it happens in basketball and every other sport. And again, I think a lot of times, the lifestyle and the money and all this is a form of control as well.
Right.
Because this woman ain't gonna leave me. Look what I'm doing for her. She ain't gonna leave me. I'm a superstar. And so they use all of that. Now, not a lot of them, but you have a small percentage of those players who do that, and we all see it. I mean, you see it in the news all the time. Let me tell you, this is a traumatic thing for kids. My kids went through something early in their life when we were dealing with things that they saw that kids never should have seen. But they had to have a father that understood it, who've been around it, who've been educated on it, was able to help them through that. So as being a single father, my kids and we have adult conversations that's very helpful, and they're smart kids, like you said, because they've been through a lot, but they're not afraid to ask questions. And that's the one thing I tell you, to say, whatever something's on your mind, no matter how bad it may be, you talk about it with me. I don't care what it is, we talk about it. And so they don't hide anything from me. And I think that's a great start, or how you educate yourself and educate others how to deal with domestic violence, drug abuse, healthcare, anything that kind of brings I would say, a misunderstanding or unclear situation in your household that is confusing, and how do a person deal with it? It comes down to if that parent, that mother or father, are willing to educate themselves so they can educate their children on how to deal with situations as they arise.
Being a father, being a single father, how many kids do you have, and how old are they again?
My oldest is 37, so she's got her own life, doing whatever. But I have my 2 young kids. My son is 14 and he's 6'7". He's a big kid. He's long, hell of a basketball player.
Wow.
He's gonna be something. Mm-hmm. And my youngest daughter, see, I deal with a lot of different things. My youngest daughter is 13. She's in a wheelchair. She has spinal bifida. Wow. But she's she's a go-getter, very independent.
Mm-hmm.
And so, no, I deal with different forms of healthcare, be it diabetes, hypertension, spinal bifida, asthma. I sit on many boards. One of the boards that I'm most passionate about, that I'm the chairman of the board of Culture City, that deals with sensory inclusion. And basically what we've just done, the city of Utah, we just sent them through our training, and every one of their first responders on their vehicles bears our logo, Culture City.
Mm-hmm.
And we just did Alabama, Texas, and now we're working here in Atlanta. Actually, we're talking about doing LA right now as well. Taking it throughout. Okay. So everybody be sensory inclusive. So we took Utah, the city of Utah, Salt Lake City, through our training. And after their training, 2 weeks later, a young kid came to their police station and wanted them to kill him, wanted to shoot him. And so they had all these squad, it's at night, they had all the squad cars out there, guns drawn and everything. Mm-hmm. And the police chief said, okay, let's de-escalate the situation. Let's bring all the lights down to his feet and calm everything down. So they did that. They were talking to the young man. They got everything calmed down. In 20 minutes, they got him subdued. Instead of taking him to jail, they took him to a hospital to get him evaluated and assessed. No one got shot. No one got hurt. It was a happy ending. And the mayor and the chief of police called us on a Zoom call, and she was in tears. She said, if it wasn't for this training, somebody could have got hurt. This training saved lives. And I'm so proud of what we do with Culture City. It's just amazing. And so we're trying to make every city that we can sensory inclusive. We have sensory rooms in every NBA arena, sensory rooms in just like in the NFL, baseball, aquariums. So we got sensory rooms. As a matter of fact, every Carnival cruise ship is our sensory rooms are in those cruise ships.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So we are making a statement on how we deal with people with special needs, autism, post-traumatic syndromes coming from the war and those sort of things. So it works. It works.
That would work with domestic violence as well, with the PTSD.
Of course, yeah. No question. Because we probably have one of the most diverse boards, out there. A lot of prominent people, be it, actors, entertainers, businessmen. We got a very, very wide diverse people who have dealt with some of the same things. So everybody brings something to the table that they've experienced or their families experience. And I don't know if you watch the show Billions, the guy who played Dollar Bill on Billions, he's one of our board members as well. And so we had a campaign that we decided that we needed to come up, because the kid named Matthew Rushin, who was arrested, I think he was 20 at the time, gave him 50 years for attempted murder on himself. Yeah, it's unheard of. But what happened is he had an accident, and being autistic, he had an accident. He was so upset, he left the scene of the accident, and he went coming down the wrong side of the street and had another accident. So he gets out of the car. A gentleman asked him and said, what are you trying to do, kill yourself? And he said, I'm trying to kill myself. But he just was repeating everything that the person was saying. So instead of taking him to be evaluated, they took him to the police station and questioned him for 4 to 5 hours. And they told him, if he signed, the district attorney said, if you sign this paper, you can go home. You don't have to worry, everything will be okay. They forced this kid to sign a document and put him in jail. He never went home. And so Kelly and I got behind and said, we got to do something. And we came up with a Human Highlight Defense Fund, using my name, Human Highlight Fund, to help, push this. And they ended up giving him 10 years in prison instead of 50. He should have never even been to a police station. Right. Well, I must say it was a happy ending, because a few months ago, they gave him a pardon and he's out of prison. But it was the pressure that we put on, the defense fund we put together, got this kid a chance to live his life. Just falsely accused, man. And so all of this stuff we do under Culture City. Mm-hmm. So you're absolutely right. What you do with domestic violence would be a great opportunity, and I think it'd be a great subject that we could talk about. And I would love to introduce you to Julian Maha, who's the founder. He and his wife are ER doctors out of Birmingham. And so they founded Culture City.
Okay.
And so I've been with them for a few years now, and I've been the chairman of the board for the last 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
My brother said something to me the other day that blew me away. And so we were doing something here at my home, and he said, you know, Nick, I would jump in front of a bullet for you. I'm looking, I'm like, where'd that come from? He said, you've taken care of our whole family since you were 16 years old. Actually, he said since you was 12, because you were the man in the house at 12. And you've worked to make sure we had what we need. He said, and he was emotional, but I've never seen my brother get emotional. He said, I don't know where we'd be today if it wasn't for you. And it really didn't dawn on me until hours later that I thought about it again. And it kind of hit me a little bit, you know? And I just felt, and I told him, I said, you know, I just felt like that's what a big brother is supposed to do. I didn't think of it any other way. I mean, for me, it was a responsibility. It was nothing that I felt that I had to do, you know, to make anybody happy or, you know, I was forced to do it. I felt as the oldest statesman of the house, you know, outside of my sister, I said, who else was going to do it?
Right.
My father was in our life. I'm the oldest boy at the, you know, that still living in the house. My brother was in prison. So somebody had to do it. So here I am. I told my mom, I said, look, you spent your whole adult life taking care of us. Now it's time for you to rest. It's my turn. You rest your life. It's my turn now. And I really meant that, and I believed in that because I saw what she'd been through, the struggle she'd been through. And for a little lady like that to take 8 kids and put them on her back, I said, now it's time for me to put the family on my back. So you rest now, and you enjoy the rest of your life. And that's what she's done to this point. Unfortunately, she's going through a lot of health problems, but you know what? She's in a place where her life is going to be enjoyed forever, how long she's going to be here. She enjoyed her life. You know, we made sure of that. And so I never care about what the hell people say, you know, because you ain't me, you ain't lived the life that I lived, you know, growing up. So you don't know what it's like. And so when people say that rolls off my back, I'm like, yeah, okay. Well, you know, I keep it moving, you know. And that's why I kind of stay to myself a lot. I got my closest friends that I'm around, but just never know what people's motives are.
Right.
And so I keep that at bay, and I try to keep moving the best way I know how.
Boys, all the way up to grown men, need to see these examples that you lived your life doing. Really, really need it.
Yeah, they do, because you know what? We got to stop using being a product of our environment as an excuse to fail.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we got to use it as a way of succeeding, being successful. If I can do it, anybody can do it. It's just applying yourself, believing in yourself, and looking at and stepping outside of that box,
mm-hmm.
and looking at life more positively, and find yourself options that you can work with, that you can use for the betterment of your life.
Did I ever tell you I was from Maryland too?
No.
Yep.
What part of Maryland?
I was born in Columbia Hospital for Women, and I was raised at first few years I was raised in Oxon Hill, and then the majority of my life I lived in Fort Washington. And
yeah, I know
now my parents live in Mitchellville or Dewey. But yeah.
So you're a homegirl. I never knew that. You were the homegirl. Oh, wow.